Hi, I'm Richard, this is Lee. Today we're going to take you around quite an established housing estate, but pick up some sort of examples of what we would normally pick up on a Stage 3 road safety audit. This would be a problem.
Yeah.
We've got a crossing point here and there's no tactile paving. So expect to see some tactile paving going across here.
Yeah, there's also quite a steep gradient, so it could be a potential slip and fall hazard. Is it in line with the other cross? I don't know. It's not in line, is it at all? It's actually that's leading you into the transition curb on the other side. So obviously, if you're visually impaired, you will you could head into the full height curb the other side and trip and fall.
And if you're visually impaired and you've got a tapper, you might not notice this curb here, so you need the tactile paving to warn you that there's a crossing point. Even if you were to notice, you're going to line yourself up and you're going to be walking straight into the full height curb or the transition curb there. Another issue here is the shared space area. Is this shared space use, even though you've got what looks like a footway here, it's quite it narrows down there. So we might expect to see some corduroy warning paving there for visually impaired.
I mean, you have got a sort of change in surface, but you've also got this sort of splay curb line, which is I don't know if that would be difficult for visually impaired pedestrians to see this. Are they still going to treat it as a footway, or is it designed so you walk the sort of full width of the carriageway?
We'd probably pick that up at Stage 3. We'd pick it up at Stage 1 and 2 if we were just seeing this at design stage as well. So. An example of what we've got here is we've got a service cover in the middle of the road that the surrounding carriageway is giving way. So over time, as cars go over it, it can start getting sunk, you can start forming potholes.
Yeah, so it's just a potential loss of control defect, especially for two-wheeled vehicles. And over time, it will be likely to get worse, so it needs to be rectified as soon as possible.
And this is something that we would quite often see on a newly built housing estate, where just over time the trucks, the lorries have gone over it and it's just started to degrade. What we're looking at here is the fact that the tactile paving doesn't go the full width of the dropped curb, and also here that part of the drop curb is quite high. The curb should be 0 to 6 mil. That's a lot higher than 6 mil really.
Yeah, so the textured tactile surface is what obviously they're using to guide them to cross the road. So they might not be expecting a higher up stand on the drop curb. So the standard is for it to be a maximum of 6 mil, or it can be flush with the carriageway surface. And then additional to this as well, the extent of the dropped area does not line up with the tactile paved area. And so that can sometimes be confusing to visually impaired who may sort of head offline, because especially if they've got like a white cane that they're using as an aid, they will be feeling for the contours of the curb line.
What we've got here is your red tactile for this crossing point here. And what a visually impaired person would do most likely at this point is be tapping along the edge there, or tapping along the edge here. They'd walk up here, they'd find the tactile, they would then walk across, they'd be guided to this this push button here, which has a little spinny cone underneath it. Press the button, and then when that's green, the green man's on, the cone will spin. And they'll then know that it's time to cross the road. And as you can see there, it's split up on the other side with other push buttons as well, so they'd have to do that again.
And you've got obviously you've got a two-way cycle route, and that's connecting into what we believe is a shared route heading off to the footpath to some businesses. But it's not, at the moment, it's not very clear to who has right of way in this area. So you've got obviously normally you would assume that this is a footway only. It's a narrow section, but there is a tie-in to this cycle lane, so there could be potential conflicts between pedestrians and cyclists at the tying point.
The reason why tactile paving is important, I've seen occasions where visually impaired people have walked out of a park or just a footpath. There hasn't been any tactile paving, and then there's been like a raised road hump, and the curb height isn't enough for them to detect with their tapping stick. So I've seen a visually impaired person walk out there with a tapping stick, not notice the curb height, and then just gone into the middle of the road, then hasn't been able to define where he is, doesn't understand what if he's just entered a carriageway, whether it's still a footway, and then a member of the public had to guide him back onto the footway. So it is important that tactile paving is there, but also that it's correct. So what we've got here is a case where it looks like vehicles have been directed straight into this curb line, and what we'd normally expect to see is that this white lining splayed outwards to direct them away from the curb line. But you can quite clearly see here that someone's come into it, and Lee's just noticed this marking, haven't you?
Yeah, so normally you'd have a 150 millimetre offset from the curb feature. So basically the white linings wrap around. It just helps motorists, road users, especially in the hours of darkness, to guide them around these kind of features.
So what we've got here is an LTN 120 cycle scheme. So it's off carriageway. It looks pretty good. This is part of a major scheme throughout Coventry, really. But you've got a crossing point here. We're seeing these more and more, and they're more informal zebra crossings, really, without the Belushi beacons.
Yeah, so they haven't got the beacons. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see how sort of road users will respond to this kind of feature. I mean, obviously, will cyclists actually give way because they might not, they might not see the beacons. Obviously, you see the zebra crossing markings, but do these kind of features need extra sort of lighting beacons just to?
It's a good point, because there's two lights here. There's one there, and then there's one up there, and they might be obscured during the hours of darkness because you've got some overhanging canopies and hedges here. There's these push buttons here which are specific for cyclists. So if you're a cyclist coming down here and you want to cross here and access that shared use route there to the offices, you'd come up here, you'd press this button, and then you've got your own lights, which is just like a normal traffic lights to say when it's your turn to go across the road. And then on some cycle routes they have specific cycle phases, so where just cyclists can go past through, and pedestrians and vehicles can't, obviously. So yeah.